Yeah.
So I'm just going to swap one.
All right. Stream is up.
Great. Can we get the curtains? Did anybody try?
The what?
Can we get the curtains to go up? Did anybody try?
I don't know if we've tried curtains. I'm not sure what the curtain controls actually are.
It might happen.
Okay. Well, hopefully it'll be a good.
Exactly. Does that help you out?
Oh yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's two. How's this live stream looking? Can you let me know if I didn't adjust the cameras yet? Is it showing up?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see you in the lower right corner.
Okay, well, our room is almost full. That clock is fast. Hallelujah. We're working on the lighting issue. Sorry about that. You.
Mine has lipstick on it, so got my lipstick on it.
Perfect. Oh, they don't want. We gotta get the cracker line. Okay, 1 minute remote. Okay, thank you.
What?
That's mine. I was like, where's my
You should give me mine with the cream in it.
Oh.
I'm just switching lids.
This room looks like it's about full, but we have 3 other rooms that we're restricting it, so.
That's my theater. It is.
And we'll go ahead and get started. Might not be any seats left.
Go for it.
No.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, oh yeah, we've got all kinds of blockage.
Yeah, we do.
Can't get in.
Okay. We got
Okay.
some.
Yeah, he refilled you.
I know, I was like, okay.
All right, hi everybody. Good morning, San Diego. Woo! Here we go. Thank you, everybody. We're so glad you're here. I'm David Levier with Crush Networks. I'm based here in Del Mar, California, president of the Southern California Office 365 Productivity Group, vice president of IAMCP, and a member of the organizing committee for SharePoint Saturday in Sonata, Mexico, San Diego, Los Angeles, Boise, and anywhere else I'm needed. Sacramento is coming up. Want to talk a little bit about one thing that we're doing today. So, the Nazareth Orphanage in Tecate, Mexico is a group that our nonprofit here supports. And we, in the last 12 months, have made 6 trips down to Tecate. We've donated 15 laptops, 14 flat panel displays, mice, keyboards, new router, carloads of presents. And we have a goal today. This is a free event, but we're very thankful that you are here. Our goal is to get $1,000 in donations, and even though my wife doesn't know it yet, we at Crush Networks are going to match whatever's donated today to that cause.
Wow.
So thank you. I want to thank our sponsors, our platinum sponsor, Compass 365, as well as our gold sponsor, SharePoint The List, and our silver sponsor, Crow Canyon. And they're all here. They're set up. Thank you so much. Let's give them all a round of applause. And as you know, those of you who are here in the building, we do have limited space. It's not quite as big as CSU San Marcos. Therefore, we did have to limit the sponsorships to those that could set up booths. So we did open it up to web sponsorships and people to make this event possible. We are very thankful for all our web sponsors. We have Content Panda, Crush Networks, NetWoven, Fujitsu, Solutions as a Service, and Aegis Innovators as our web sponsors. Let's give them all a hand. I'm also proud to announce that everybody is here, so thank you for that. We have a raffle prize sponsor, which is WebCon, and Mike is here representing them, so thank you, Mike, for that. And our venue sponsor, of course, is Microsoft, and we have Peggy, Matthias, and Matt here from Microsoft today to help run the show. So let's give all our sponsors a hand. Also extremely thankful for our speakers and attendees who traveled from so far. Honestly, this is a free event. It's volunteers. None of the speakers are getting paid. We have people who traveled from Toronto, Canada, Mexico City, Mexico, Boise, Idaho, Redmond and Seattle, Washington, all the way from Mexicali, Mexico, Maui, Hawaii, Minnesota, Vancouver, British Columbia, and as far away as Chula Vista, California. Let's give them all a hand for traveling. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate that. Final matter before I turn it over to our keynote speaker. We have a SharePint tonight. This is over at Draft Republic at UTC. It's about a half mile down the road. You can walk, you can drive. It's free. After our raffle, you'll go over there. You'll get free drinks. We have pizzas as well, so something to nosh on. We're very thankful to announce that Martha Castiglia has elected to be our SharePoint sponsor and contributed a ton of money to let us all have a great time in memory of Tom Castiglia, who, as some of you may not know, a year ago tomorrow he tragically passed away on a hiking trip, and that's why I'm here instead of Tom. For the last year I've been helping carrying the torch, keep this group going. Martha is spending the weekend with Ben in Arizona. We're sad that she can't be here. She might be watching the live stream. I don't know. Hi, Martha. We love you. So, yeah, let's have a good time. I'm going to thank you all so much for coming. Thanks to the attendees and everybody. I also, and the volunteers, the organizers, to the facilities people, and maybe we'll get some lights on in this room. But I'm going to turn the time over to our keynote speaker, who you all know and love, Heather Newman, everybody.
Hook a sister up.
Thank you.
Sure. Fantastic. Oh my goodness. What is that? Hey, I brought my own lights too.
Yes, I saw.
I was a theater major. Goodness sakes. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah? How about this? No? Not so much?
Drama.
Not so much? Okay. Anyway. First of all, thank you for having me. West Coast San Diego team, I really appreciate the time and to be in front of all you lovely people. I'll dance around a little so we aren't behind some of those things. I am Heather Newman, and I'm here to talk to you about building healthy corporate culture, leveraging Office 365. And I have to say, the last time I was down here speaking, I was with Tom, and it was my first San Diego user group. And so I definitely feel his spirit here. So me and you and I were standing right here. Anyway, big shout out, Martha. Wow. So here we go. Oh, and I have a clicker too. So excited. Okay, cool. So, I'm going to switch one thing real quick. There we go. Okay. So, my name again is Heather Newman. A lot of people call me Hedda. It's a nickname I got in college. My pronouns are she, hers, and her, and I am a human in tech, just like all of you. I run a couple of companies. I'm a storyteller at heart. I was a theater major back in the day at the University of Washington. And I run Content Panda, which my business partner Simeon's here today as well. And we are a company that's been around for about 5 or 6 years, and we build software that helps Office 365 have a little bit more help content and training inside it, and we do it in a contextualized way right inside the UI. So when you're like, how do I do that? I can't remember. What are you going to do? Click the Panda. It's that simple. You have little hats on your desks too to take home with you. I also run a marketing consultancy that I've had for about 13 years. It's called Creative Maven, and we help businesses tell their stories better. We do marketing strategy, we build lots of content, I write very fast on people's blogs, I do a lot of ghostwriting and all that sort of thing, and I love helping businesses and individuals reach their best potential. I'm a 2-time Office Apps and Services Microsoft MVP. And I love traveling the world, talking about healthy workplaces, Microsoft Teams, diversity and inclusion, women in tech, and all of those wonderful things. Nice to see you, ladies, here. Right on. Yeah. Woo, woo. Nice to see y'all, man, too. Nice to see all of our non-binary folks as well, if you're here. So thank you for that. I live in Marina Del Rey, and I am originally from Michigan, the Mitten State. Go blue, or green, or Boilermaker. I don't know, whatever. But I'm not a big sports fan, so anyway, so this is my perspective on how we should treat each other in the world, and how technology can help with that. And I believe that it starts with ourselves, each one of us. So I'm going to share a poem with you. When I was young and free, and my imagination had no limits, I believed I could change the world. As I grew older and wiser, I discovered the world would not change. So I shortened my sights somewhat, and I decided only to change my country. But yet, that was still immovable. In one last desperate attempt, in my twilight years, I figured I'm going to change only my family, right? Those closest to me. But alas, they would have none of it. So, as I lie here on my deathbed, I suddenly realized if I had only changed who, everyone? Myself. Then, by example, maybe I would have changed my family. And by their encouragement and support, I would have bettered my country. And then, who knows? I might have actually changed the world. I love that one. Yeah?
Yeah.
My dad gave that to me in high school. And It's definitely something I live by, try to live by, you know? It's a tough one, but sometimes those changes just are the ones that are in us that we need to do. So, it sits on a tomb in London in the Westminster Abbey, supposedly on an Anglican bishop's crypt. I tried to find it, but that place is big, I gotta tell you. So, healthy corporate culture. Am I saying that your workplace is sick? Or it's got a cold? Well, here's the thing. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, my workplace is fine. We respect each other, we get along, we pay people a fair wage, we have time off and encouragement. That all sounds good, right? Yeah? But I say, is that all you've got? Right? Your workplace may not have the full-fledged flu. Love me some alliteration, right? But all of us as individuals and as businesses, I think, have a symptom that's sometimes hard to get rid of. And it's kind of like that nasal drip that lingers on and on, right? I call that the fear factor. Anybody remember the movie Dune? Yeah? Great flick, right? Kind of terrible, but awesome, right? But anyway, I think one of the best parts of the film is this quote. And I think you might, if you don't know the whole thing, fear is the mind killer is a very popular quote in our culture, if you haven't seen the rest of this. But you don't have to see the movie, but because we all understand what fear is, right? And fear, holds us back. But it also is not always a bad thing. It protects us from harm, right? It gets us out of bad situations. But it also can lead to stress, which leads to sickness, which leads to disease. And fear is easily shared among groups of people. So if you know the movie at all, anybody remember the order of women that studied humanity and society? Where?
Bene Gesserit?
Mwah! Bene Gesserits! Yes. Well, I would call these women master mavens. And this is the litany of fear, which is something they used as a tool to study and then to bring goodness to their society. I think our fears stop us from going after a lot of burning desires we have. They come out of our childhoods, and we have these 200,000-year-old brains. Remember, our brains are old, and they have that lizard inside them, right? That fight or flight that makes us say and do things sometimes that we don't need. Imposter syndrome. That's kind of a big buzzword right now, right? Thinking about, I want to go for that promotion, but gosh, I'm not smart enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. We're imposters when we feel like we shouldn't be standing up here in front of people. I totally do. I'm totally fine. But you know what I mean, though? Like we have those moments, and that's all from fear. So I think also fear keeps us from sometimes standing up for people at work. When you see something's going on, somebody gets interrupted, somebody's having a bad day, we sometimes won't speak up or say hi or ask them if they're okay because we're afraid. So as we go through this, I'd like to have you open your hearts and minds a little bit and think about that fear factor that we all have, because we all have it, I'll arm wrestle you on it. I don't want to arm wrestle anybody after, but I do believe it's true. Let me figure out how to use my own clicker for a second. I know there's a laser on here too, which is really exciting, but anyway. Or not, whatever. So one of the other hottest topics here in our corporate environment is where we have an ailment and a problem. We've got a problem with diversity and inclusion. And what do we do with problems, y'all? We fix them. We're going to fix this problem, right? I want to check some boxes. I want to get a fix. I want to figure it out. I want to go sell some more software after that. Right? I mean, I don't have time to talk about these things in my day, do you? You've got to drive pipeline, drive your revenue, finish the report that some of you are working on right now while you're listening to me. I see you. You got to drive your kids to school. You've got to take care of your aging parents. You've got to do all of these things. Do you even have time for this problem, this thing that's in the media about diversity and inclusion? You want to just live your life, have a job, do your thing, and move on, right? So, because this is a technology event and I think about this stuff a lot, I've got something for you. I worked with my developer and I created something that I think is going to solve this problem. And I'm going to launch it in about a month. And can I get a drum roll? I'm totally excited about this. Okay. With no further ado, 2 offerings that I've created to solve the problem of diversity and inclusion. $20 per year annually. I give you diversity as a service, DAS, and inclusion as a service, IAS. And so as you can see, it's $10 per user per month, and there's a QR code. So you can sign up right now. You want to sign up? Get the fix, get the problem solved. Who thinks I'm pulling a fast one? Okay, I know. But I was like, we can fix this problem if we sassed it up, right? I'm going to show you something real quick. Let's see if I can get over there. I have this.
Oh, you don't have your Wi-Fi.
I do have my Wi-Fi on.
Oh, wait.
Really, y'all? Come on. Well, go to the QR code. I'll go back to the presentation and see if that pulls it back up. But the QR code does have a nice 404 for you. Anywho, all right. So, technology over here is being interesting today. So, that's all right. But anywho, this QR code does lead you to a nice 404 that tells you that diversity and inclusion can't be solved as a service, and there isn't a fix to the problem. And there's a 8 to 10 blog series that I've written on kicking fear and toxicity out of the workplace down there. So if you do hit the QR code, you get that as well. You know, I actually saw on a website in a TED Talk, this woman had given it, and she created a website called rentaminority.com. It's still up, rentaminority.com. And I can't tell you the amount of people that signed up. I mean, it's for minorities, for businesses along the top. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I went and checked it out and everything. And then I was like, what will we do in our industry? I'm like, we sass it up, you know? So that was my idea for these solutions. But you can show them to human resources too. I think they'll love it. Anyway, so, you know, diversity and inclusion is a hot topic right now, and you're probably hearing a lot about it and seeing lots of things about it. Diversity and inclusion has been driven by many things. It's been, you know, by many grassroots movements, by many things happening in our world. We've got Black Lives Matter and Me Too and lots of things that are driving Google memos and all kinds of interesting things that have been happening. And this is so funny, like being in the dark with you. I'm kind of like, it feels very cozy. But anyway, the thing is that it's part of a healthy workplace, but it's not all of it. There's other things that contribute to it, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about those things. But I also really love Melinda Gates. Has anybody read this book yet? The Moment of Lift? If not, it's really good. Right on. Yeah, it's a terrific book. Yeah, love it? Yeah, absolutely. So the thing about this quote that I love from her is the first 3 words. All of us. Right? This is about all of us. And the thing is when we do have more diverse and inclusive teams, we just have more insights than we have before because there's more opinions from differing places. We all get this, yeah? Yeah? And I think it's one of those things that it's our jobs to help build those things and maybe do some cajoling and convincing. Here's the other thing. If you're a numbers person or you're looking at somebody in finance who you want to say, you know, can we do something? Can we create something? Can we have something that addresses some of these issues or create groups and communities? And they're like, well, I don't, you know, spending money there isn't going to help or do anything. Well, that is absolute bunk because from Harvard Business Review to Deloitte to Forbes, there are data points that tell us that diverse and inclusive companies are more productive and drive more revenue. The percentages keep changing all the time. You want the list of those articles and reports? I'm going to put them out on a blog probably next week so you can grab them if you need to convince somebody. Sometimes you need to do that. You need to raise the roof, right, and level it up. And if we are happy and we are productive, what do? We jump out of bed like Tigger, don't we? Right? And who doesn't love Tigger? I love Tigger. So I had to put him in here. What am I going to do, right? So that's a gratuitous slide. But anyway, next up, these are kind of interesting. So these are 10 inclusive behaviors that were developed by Microsoft for its global diversity and inclusion cultural revolution and evolution. And I'm going to put them up a little slow so we can kind of all read them. It's a build slide. It's very exciting. I'm gonna let him sit there for a minute while I take a sip of coffee. So I think with these are great, and they're great for Microsoft. They're a great guide post, they're a great foundation. There's probably things that you have in your head that you're like, well, this isn't up there. Well, I say write it down. Write it down, for your company or your team. And I don't know if it went out already, but it will after. I'm putting this slide up on Twitter, so if you want to reference it later, you can. Right? So feel free to take a photo, but it'll be up on Twitter as well. I think so. Figure out one that resonates with you. And maybe one thing to walk away from today is thinking about what one thing here resonates with you, and how could you bring that back, right, to your company. For me, number 10 is the one that resonates with me. It resonates with me, I would say, personally, about being brave, because to stand up and talk about these issues in front of people is frightening sometimes, depending on the audience. And so I have to be very brave about sharing stories and talking about these things and holding space for people. And so to me, on a personal level, it means something to be brave and to share, And I also think on a macro level, with everybody else in this room and in the world, bravery and vulnerability are really truly what's going to connect us and change things for the better. So anybody, and you get one short sentence because you're not taking over my keynote. Anybody want to share the one that they're resonating with? Anyone? It's fine if you don't. Anyone?
Examine your assumptions.
Examine your assumptions? Yeah? You want to say why real quick? Think it's a good idea?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Got into trouble, man.
You've gotten in trouble about that? You and I probably sit in the same place. Okay, got your peas in a pod. Thank you for sharing that, being brave, and saying that out loud in front of everyone. Simeon.
I like number 7, include and seek input from people with wide variety of backgrounds. Because a lot of times see people, I do this myself, where you're looking for validation. You look to find somebody who has an opinion that thinks your idea is the way to go. But it's always great to have a devil's advocate to find varying opinions, bring all that together, consider all of it,
Yeah.
a more informed decision.
Yep, thanks. Thank you for sharing. Yep. So that one, folks, for you live streaming, that was number 7, and it was about when you're looking for validation, you sometimes look for people who kind of say yes in a way, but looking for other people to play devil's advocate with and challenge things with you is important. Yeah.
9, understand each person's contribution. Sometimes it takes the world for a person to even contribute. And if they don't get thanked or validated, then it can never happen again.
Absolutely. Number 9, understand each person's contributions, saying that it takes a lot sometimes for people to contribute. And so when you validate, they will do it more and contribute more. And when you don't, they will often sit back and not contribute. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate that. So this is a quote from me. I wrote this. It was during the Sonoma County fires a couple of years ago. I had a house up there and lived up there a long time, and so it was very hard to watch that whole area burn. And we have a lot of tragedy in the world as far as school shootings and weather and all of that stuff. And I think that I really try to follow and learn and listen from people who share my values, but who also take action. And I think we all have the power to start with ourselves to do so. And I think for me, empathy, I learned that when I was a theater major. When I got up on stage and embodied a character, and you, all as an audience, watch me as the character, I am empathetic to that character because I've studied and understand it, and I'm showing you what it means to be that character, and you believe it, hopefully, if I do a good job. And because of that, you feel empathy towards that situation and that character. That's what empathy is, walking in someone else's shoes and understanding who they are. Empathy is awesome. Empathy is what makes us actually human, I believe. The thing is that you combine some empathy with some action, you become a warrior, And so, and actions can be this big. They don't have to be huge. We know that revolutions and changes and all that kind of thing can come from a word, a spark, someone sitting down in a bus, all of that, right? So I think when we're watching films and theater and all of that, we buy into the story of Hermione and Harry Potter, of Willy Loman, of the star-crossed lovers of Romeo and Juliet, right? Most of the time, all that we're doing is we are telling, hearing, and understanding each other's stories. And if we did that more, in the technology we use as well, we would move faster and innovate further. Satya likes empathy too. Woo! So Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, he lives, breathes inclusion and collaboration. So the mission of Microsoft is to empower every person and organization. And when we have more empathy, we innovate. So everyone know about alt text? Alt text, A-L-T-T-E-X-T. So alt text is when you have a photo, and right here you have a photo of Satya Nadella. Now, if someone was blind, they could use a screen reader, and here, this is a headshot of Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, right? And that's something that is inside of PowerPoint, and you can choose as a speaker to fill those in or not. I filled them in. And it's one of those things where alt text was changed, when was it? So Google changed their search so that you could search alt text. And this is kind of a funny thing. There was a search for a green Versace dress. Anyone remember what green Versace dress made a big hullabaloo in our world? I do. Jennifer Lopez. Pow, right? That was the most searched term. It went bananas on Google, and they changed how they load, look at, and see images and pictures. You can look that up. I thought that was so interesting. But also, so you've got things like alt text, and somebody thought of that. Somebody in this room could have thought of that, And that's because they're empathetic and understand how all people, all of us, actually use and need to use technology. Who's seen the new Xbox Adaptive Controller? I know what that is. Amazing, right? So something else to write down, go do later. Just write down Xbox Adaptive Controller commercials. Oh my goodness. For kids and adults to be able to play games when they couldn't before, it's unbelievable. I actually saw it when it was first coming out, and it is such a neat thing. And again, somebody thought of that. Somebody in our community thought of that, right? So when we have that empathy, and we take that action, so maybe telling somebody about an idea, we change the world and we're more successful. So 3 is the magic number. Yes, it is. Anybody? It's a magic number. Schoolhouse Rock? Yeah. Okay. It's showing my age here a little bit, but that's all right. So we have our foundation of diversity, inclusion, empathy, action. 3 is the magic number. 3 in numerology is all about abundance, teamwork, working together, collaborating, and happy communications. That's why you see 3s so much out in the world. Trifecta, triangle, triad, all that kind of thing. So we're going to do 3. So I'm going to run through a few things. So challenging our unconscious bias. So unconscious bias, to me, unconscious bias is a problem only because we all have it. And it's hard because it's hard to do something about it. But it's defined as prejudice or unsupported judgments in favor of one thing or against another, right? In a way that's usually considered unfair. So as a result of the unconscious bias, certain people benefit in favor of, and other people are penalized, which is the other part, which I can't remember. Against, there we go, haha. So what we need to do is look at how when we're born, the moment we come out, we're getting information, we're getting input, right? Cataloging, like just millions of things and all this information, right? What our brains do is that they're cataloging, they're making pairings, they're making understanding, they're connecting the dots, pattern recognition. It's kind of like so that it becomes hardwired so we don't have to think. We learn that if you touch a hot stove, what happens? Wow, you get burned, right? That's that kind of hardwiring that's happening all the time in our brains. The thing about unconscious bias sometimes is that it comes out like this. You look at a woman and go, gosh, she should be staying at home and caring for her family. Or you look at people with different races or ethnicities and you go, I have an odd reaction to that, but I'm not sure why. Older people, you look at them and say, gosh, they can't think quite as fast. Or you call somebody a millennial or a boomer, boomer, a millennial. Somebody's going to cut that, put that into a meme, and I'm going to get in so much trouble.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, right. Or, people who are overweight or lazy. There's these snap things that we have going on in our heads. This is an excellent book by Luana Harris that looks at this. So these unconscious biases are those knee-jerk reactions, and I think we can take a moment to be conscious about these things. And it takes just a second, right? You look at something, you make a snap judgment in your head, keep your mouth shut, and think before you speak or make a judgment. Really? That starts right here with each one of us. The effects of this, these are some interesting facts that have come from University of North Carolina Business School. And there's research all over about this, right? And the thing is that these unconscious biases turn into real pain and suffering for people, you know? And we suffer some loss because of it. We get passed over promotions because of it. Sometimes people get accused of things because of it. And we really aren't able to be our authentic selves if we're judged based on these biases. I don't like giving a problem unless I give a solution, right? What's that Vanilla Ice song? If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while the DJ revolves it. Come on. Ice, ice, baby. Oh, sorry, I needed a dance break. Okay, cool. How are we doing? We're about halfway. Sweet. Okay, so, anywho, widen your net. Look further out. Take in more people. Challenge yourself to go meet other people maybe outside your realm. Obstruct your view. They do blind auditions in orchestras now because they found that there was 5% women in most orchestras. When they started putting in a panel so you couldn't see who was playing, the percentages went up. There's ways to do that in our businesses as well. And the other thing was that women had to take off their shoes. Clomp, 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 clomp. So a lot of women went barefoot to these auditions. Interesting. Craft concrete criteria. Really pay attention to the criteria that you're using to judge, to look at something, to hire someone. If you write down your criteria and you share it, then it's transparent, right? Dave, at the speaker thing last night, the dinner last night, he said, I want you to know how you were picked. We took all the names and everything off of the top. We picked by the sessions. That's an example of obstructing your view, right? So people were picked because of what they were bringing to the table, not who they are in any way, right? And those things are simple, things that can be done. I think awareness, too, is one of the big things. Just being aware, you know, by attending things like this or reading more articles or, you know, just thinking about that one moment of conscious unconsciousness when you're looking at a situation is really important. And then go get educated. I think we're always learning. I learn about this stuff all the time. I screw up. I say things that get done sometimes. I was raised in the Midwest. God love it sometimes that I like say something and I'm like, oh my goodness, so sorry. But the fact that I can stop myself and say, oops, so sorry, let me correct that, you know, it's a big deal. Hey, the tech! We are at a tech thing, right? We're going to talk about, let's go back. The two I am going to talk about today are up at the tippy top, from like to your right, Teams and Yammer. We're going to talk about those in just a minute. So number 2 for me, promoting digital literacy and technology adoption. I think that when we can't find the answers to what we're doing, who likes feeling dumb? Anybody? I certainly don't, you know? And sometimes we can't find what we need, and we can't get the answers. Yeah, one guy's like, it's okay. I'm fine. That was a blanket statement, okay? All right. But anyway, I think that, you know, it is absolutely essential that who's a business owner in here? Anyone? Business owners? Awesome. Everybody else working for somebody else, yeah? Or themselves? Themselves? Okay. But I think it's important for our businesses that we provide training and support for our people that work for us, right? And it's not just about these big, huge, like cloud deployments and that kind of stuff. I think it's the small things, and I think there's a million ways to get training that are free, that are either, you know, on demand, in person, in context. Any of those things are available to us at any time. The thing is if you don't, and if people feel illiterate, they will keep doing the same thing the same way, and they won't change. And where does that stem from? Fear factor! Back in the front, right? Yeah. So this this isn't about Office 365 necessarily, but it's about basic computer functionality, right? That we see people have issues with. The last one's kind of silly. Jack Dorsey is the CEO of Twitter. But yeah. And if you happen to be colorblind and not sure, the right side is the incorrectly. Or the not sure is all the way over and then incorrectly. So there's sort of 3 scales of who can do what correctly. And I think those numbers are pretty big, you know, for certain things. What does it cost businesses? When we don't have the tools and guidance that we need, we can't take advantage of all the inherent knowledge that is between us. So if we're not using something like Teams or Yammer to communicate, how are we communicating? Are we communicating in email still? Or it's slow and ineffective, right? And it's back and forth and back and forth. I want real time, right? Now I don't want to be interrupted every 5 seconds, like some of the notifications definitely do. But you control that, right? But I think one of the things is we miss out on shared information when we're not using tools that we can communicate with each other. And then the other thing is that we just lose creativity and innovation because of that, right? Because we're not innovating, talking, and fixing problems together. This is a really good report that's on the bottom of this, and so if you want to take a look at that later. 40% of those using software at work every day do not have the skills required to use digital technologies effectively. That's from this year, right? That's a big number, right? I think, so Tracy Vanderskiff, South African MVP, we were talking, and she did the math of what 5 minutes to 30 minutes of digital literacy for each person in your company would save the company. We calculated it in South African Rand, but we extrapolated the numbers, and it was huge. It was huge numbers. Somebody, everybody know what I said alt text earlier. Do you know what the alt tab, if you hit alt tab, what that does? Alt tab flips between screens. I bet there's maybe 40% of people in this room that might not even know that. Now, I'm old school. I hotkey everything, right? I'm always like Control C, Control this, Control that, because I learned that way. But I think definitely some of those things are on the mark. There's great resources that Microsoft has, and if you don't know of these already, they're terrific. The Microsoft Tech community is great. If you're not up there, please go join. This is up there. It's called Microsoft Adoption, aka MS, Microsoft Adoption. There's How to Join the Champions program. Once a month, there is a phone call with the Teams team, Office 365, where they talk about all kinds of great stuff and how to lead a Champions program and how to build that inside your business. If you aren't using it, I think it's sort of silly. It's free, and it's wonderful. All of the different areas there, those are adoption guides. I run end user workshops all the time at events, and I don't use my own material to start with ever. I'm like, go take what Microsoft has built and add to it. It is awesome. So don't ever feel like you have to start from scratch on these sorts of things, because it's all available to you. And then lastly, there's a $99 assessment that you can go and get a Service Adoption Specialist certificate on edX.org. It's also free, and you don't have to get the certificate. But if you are doing adoption or any sort of digital literacy programs inside your business, plus it's just great to have another certification in this area, because there's so many wicked technical certifications. This one's about adoption and digital literacy. So I highly recommend this too. Something else that's cool that's coming soon in preview is Advisor for Microsoft Teams. And this is a way that Microsoft Teams is going to help you with your rollout of Teams. It's kind of amazing. It's brand new. It was just announced, so not a lot of people know about it. But it assesses your Office 365 tenant environment, identifies the most common configurations that you have, and you might need to update them a little bit, but or modify them. But you can have a deployment Teams set up in Teams by this, and then you can roll out workloads as needed. Who's excited about this? Woo! Seriously, okay? Everybody, that was a big woohoo. You just couldn't hear it. But anyway, let's see. Lots of information. The 2 blogs down there. The one is the technical blog from Microsoft, and the other, Jamie Laporte, is brilliant and has a great article about this. You have to have Office 365 Business Essentials license. So
Yay!
let there be light. Oh my goodness. I feel like, do I need to go do my hair? Am I cold? Oh, okay. But you have to have Business Essentials, so it works with Forms and Planner as well, right? So check this out when it comes out. If you're rolling out Teams, or even if you rolled it out already, maybe you need to re-roll it out, depending, right? So creating intentional spaces for conversations. So we've got diversity and inclusion, we've got empathy, we've got action, we've got challenging our unconscious bias. We're going to try and get more digital literate and promote adoption. Woo!
We got lights.
Hey, Dave. Yeah.
And air conditioning, you're welcome.
Oh, so nice. It's like, okay, somebody bring me a fan. Okay, no, okay. But with intentional spaces, we use technology for what it's supposed to be, for collaborating and connecting with each other, right? Some people have organizations and groups in place already. Anybody have something at work that's like non-work that talks about kind of who we are as people? Any groups where you sort of share things? Even if it's pictures of your dogs. Anything like that? A little bit? Yeah. Yeah.
SharePoint's for it.
Right. SharePoint and Teams and Yammer. So anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about creating these intentional spaces. So again, Teams and Yammer, and the logos are important and they're really pretty, but the most important letter on this slide is the and, or the ampersand, if you will, because these, this is like flashing like strobe at me and I don't want to fall over in a minute after seeing that for too long. There we go. That the and the ampersand really truly means and. When we're talking about Office 365, everything is connected, right? Everything is more connected than ever with Teams as well. So it's Teams and Yammer, or SharePoint and OneDrive, or OneNote and PowerPoint. And they can be used so interchangeably now by putting them at the tops of the tabs on Teams. They're fantastic. So it's better together for sure. It's kind of awesome. So the new Yammer. Who uses Yammer in this room? Okay, nice. All right. Who's never seen it ever? Okay, fair enough. So that's good for what I'm going to say next, because I can tell you a little bit about it. So one of the things with Yammer, it's definitely a place for communities, knowledge, and engagement on a corporate level, on a business big level, right? And you have engagement with the leadership, which is encouraged, company-wide communications, you can share knowledge, and then we get into the employee experience area, is where some of the things I'm talking about intentional spaces, right? It's more open and inclusive. It's all across the web, mobile, Microsoft Office 365. And they've upgraded the design. So they did a bunch of Ignite announcements. And you can now brand it so it looks like your company and not just Yammer, which is really exciting. And then you can, the big thing that they've done is they changed. I love PowerPoint transitions. Did you notice, like, I use so many in here? My goal is always to use all of them in a presentation. My favorite is the glitter one, but the bird's really good too. Or that's called origami. Anyway, so I'm a marketer, and you know what I love? A rebrand, right? Because as a consultant, that usually means a little bit of money. But, inside of a business, it means a lot of time and energy and sometimes some heartache. But the Yammer team did a really good thing here, and they changed groups in Yammer to communities. And so it really is sort of reflecting Yammer's purpose in a better way for engagements and interactions. So there's a conversations web part for SharePoint. So you can have the conversations web part in SharePoint. You can have Yammer conversations in Outlook, and there's a new Yammer app for Teams. So you can have Yammer all day long everywhere you want. Yam, 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 right? Which is awesome. And Michael C, you can quote me on that. So anyway, and their hashtag this year, if you take photos and want to tweet them, is Year of Yammer. Kind of like Year of the Hammer, maybe. I don't know. But it's good. But admins can now designate official communities to designate people to different areas, and you can also now pin your favorite communities on top. So for those of you who are using Yammer, the new Yammer, definitely check it out and ask your admins when that's going to roll out and when you're going to use it. Those of you who haven't, sometimes a company doesn't use Yammer. Maybe they're not. I mean, any company can use it. Maybe you're not big enough and you just haven't rolled it out because your admins have decided, we're not doing that and adding something else. But I do think it's a really powerful thing. And it's great, I think, for smaller companies to have as they grow as well. It's like trying to figure out when I'm supposed to be done. So I'm rocking. All right. This was really cool. So with each Yammer and teams that I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to give you an example of something that folks did. So, so for transgender people, sometimes choosing which bathroom to go to is a little tough, right? And or a lot tough, actually, to be seriously honest. You know, it's like, where do I go? All of those things going through your mind. And sometimes it can be really uncomfortable and also unsafe. And so the San Francisco Microsoft office decided to create a gender-neutral bathroom, which was great. And so at the location, the team wanted to share their support and celebrate transgender and non-binary colleagues. And so they had potty party cupcakes, and they did a AMA, or Ask Me Anything, and then they could ask questions and all of that stuff. And so this was a lot. This was talked about by the Yammer team, and where they put things afterwards. They filmed it and all of that, and having those communication points. And if you're building some of these, you can look at some examples are women at name of the company, pride at name of the company, the parent tribe, or multicultural celebration. There's a million things you can have on Yammer, and a lot of times with Yammer you'll have a community manager. And is anybody a community manager of their Yammer in here? No? Community managers usually start from just saying, I want to be a community manager, or just starting a community. And then you kind of learn as you go. And I think community, and Michelle, do you find that? Did you find that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those things where that role becomes more and more important the more communities you have and the more that are built out. So it's kind of neat. Whoop, honeycomb. Honeycomb! So Microsoft Teams. Who's using Teams? Almost everybody. My goodness, that's exciting. Cool. So we all know Teams is the hub for teamwork in Microsoft 365. We've got chat, online meetings, enterprise calling and voice, and then lots of built-in applications and all the good security and compliance that is normally in Teams as well. It's a fun slide. Whoop! Told you. They get better as we keep going. So the community experience in Microsoft Teams, you can choose where you do these things, right? If you're heavier Teams users, do it in Teams. If you're heavier in Yammer, do it in Yammer. The other thing you can use Teams for is for if you have a bunch of community managers or folks that are actually sort of setting up things in Yammer, or you want to have a more private space where you talk about planning for something like that, the potty party and all of that. You do that in a Teams, right? And you have it in a Teams with your channels with the different things you're working on. So they work pretty seamlessly, and I think you can also have channels for celebrations, and for those not using Yammer. Who uses GIFs in Teams or knows that you can use GIFs? Who knows what a GIF is? Aw. Those funny pictures that are like this that I'm going to probably have 5 of made later of me doing silly things. So those, that say, yay, or whatever, right? Even something like that is really powerful sometimes, A lot of times I've heard that different teams who are using Microsoft Teams sort of as their support area, that sending people gifts is one of the things that makes them love the support team. So, food for thought on that. I think it's really kind of fun. So, karaoke and wellness Fridays. So 2 different companies that I know of have either karaoke on the Friday in the office, or they do a wellness Friday where they give people time off. Now, Teams are now, what is it, 5,000 users? Up to 5,000 users. So if you're a larger company, Teams is not the place necessarily for this company-wide stuff, so that's why you want to move into Yammer, right? Anybody in a 5,000 or above? Yeah, that's probably why you're using Yammer, right? Yeah, exactly. So, it's a great place to back channel, but it's also a great place for karaoke. In the afternoon every Friday, the company gets together. One of the C-levels loves karaoke and decided to get up there. And the funny thing is that he's like, like this, but he loves it. And him being brave and being vulnerable right? Makes everybody else go, this is awesome. So they, they video it. They put gifs of each other on it. They've started competitions to where they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do karaoke and you're gonna do this song, and they choose songs for each other, and it's fun, and everybody participates, right? So it's just something to blow up some steam, and you don't have to go every time, but they're using the technology to share with each other what's going on there, and it's simply fun, right? Also, Wellness Fridays. There's a company that doing a little work with that they've just decided at 3 o'clock, Wellness Friday. You can do whatever you want. However, you need to share it, if you like, with everyone else. What did you do? How did you use your Wellness Friday? Again, pictures come in from, people with the toes up in a hot tub in a spa or whatever, or reading a book or this, and because they all a lot of them live in the same place, for the local people, they're sharing cool things to do. Like, oh, did you know, on Fridays there's a farmer's market, like all that kind of thing, Like, I know technology is there to keep us productive and on task and all of that stuff. But it's also there to connect us with fun. Okay. You cut into my time, by the way. Guess what? I'm on my last slide. So, being a marketer, I'm a bit of a consumer and a contributor to the noise in our world, right? There's a lot coming at us. So, our biases are with us, whether we like it or not. But challenging the bias is really something we can do in this moment and continue to do it every day. And, I love this term humans in IT or humans of IT, which Microsoft says. I think I try and lead with that and remember that every day, right? We should never struggle to do our jobs. We should have the answers at our fingertips. And we should use our technology, Teams and Yammer, for that. I've got tons of resources on how people are using these, and also there's a great presentation that Caruana and the Yammer team did from Ignite that talk about diversity and inclusion and healthy workplaces as well. So I think being brave and vulnerable is really the only way that we're going to change the hearts and minds of everyone on our planet for a better way. And if I was going to create a SaaS product, it would be this one, Healthy Workplace as a Service, right? I would put that in the market if I could. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, you don't want to lay on your deathbed thinking I could have changed the world, right? I know I don't. So I invite all of you to start with yourselves and start using and thinking the technology maybe in a different way, letting go of fear, kicking that unconscious bias out, and remember that a corporate, healthy workplace is one where we're going to be happy and productive, and it's super important. That's it. Thank you. Thank you all. Let's have a great day. Okay.
One more time for Heather Newman, everybody.
That's right.
All right, so visit your sponsors out there quickly. Grab a bite if you haven't grabbed a bite already. The next sessions are creating your first bot to communicate with SharePoint list.